So great to see you, Miss Jo. And for those of you watching this, if you don't know, I am Kathy Izard, author of The 100-Story Home. And this is Miss Jo Morrison from Kingsport, Tennessee. We've only met in person once, but I feel like I know her because we've emailed, and she's certainly been an inspiration to me over the last few years. We were connected through my book. Is that right, Miss Jo?
Yes. And I'll tell you what, the way I got it in the first place was that Liz Clayson Kelly,
Yes.
in Charlotte, who is very into homeless issues,
Absolutely.
she grew up in the same church that I go to, so has been a friend since she was a little girl. So I became interested in what she was doing in Charlotte. And then I think she is the one who gave me the 100-story book.
Well, she is a dear friend of mine, also an inspiration to me. And she's in the book. And so she is one of, I guess if it's nonfiction, but she's one of the main characters because she was one of the first people in Charlotte to talk about this idea of housing first. And
Yeah.
so I do write about her in the book.
Then we got together and brought a busload over to Charlotte, and that's when I met you.
Yes.
And all of the people that were on that bus subsequently came back to Kingsport, inspired. You spoke to us, and it was so inspiring, and also visiting the facility. But your being with us and speaking to us was such a real shot in the arm, so to speak, to say, come on back home and do something.
Well, and I think you spearheaded that van load of two, I think it was 2 van loads of people that you brought from Kingsport. And when you were standing in Moore Place that day, you were 102 years old. So that was 2 years ago. You're now 104. So tell me what's been going on with the effort and your efforts there of trying to build something like Moore Place in Kingsport.
Okay. Well, we've been working on it, and we have a wonderful board from representatives from a number of different churches. We called it the Kingsport Homeless Ministry because we hope to involve all the churches in helping with the project. And we have tried to find a building to renovate. So far, we've run into the problem of neighbors saying, or businesses, if it's a business area, saying, not in my neighborhood. Right. So I understand that, but it is a real handicap. But we're moving on, and we're not giving up.
I'm so glad to hear that.
The need is great.
And I know from your grandson and from others that reading about homelessness and housing in the 100-story home was not your first awakening to the issue, that you've been involved in Kingsport for a really long time, doing some pretty remarkable things. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Well, in 1985, a friend of mine said, help me get a Habitat for Humanity affiliate for Northeast Tennessee.
Wow.
And my husband had just passed away, and I had time, so I did. And as a matter of fact, now this year this is Northeast Tennessee affiliate, and this year we will have housed 300 families.
That is remarkable. Since 1985.
Yes. And then in 1986, the governor, who was new at that time, had heard when he was stomping the state to win the election, people said, we want you to do something about affordable housing. So he established an affordable housing task force, and I was asked to be on that. And then I came back to Kingsport, and said, well, we need to have a coalition here for affordable housing, in addition to Habitat, which is a whole different program.
Right.
But this was getting together real estate people and bankers and trying to put together people who were wanting a home but could not afford or did not know how to negotiate getting a loan. And so that was a 10-year project. So I've kind of been into housing for low-income people one way or another since 1985.
Well, and I think for those watching who don't know, the most remarkable part of your story to me, and we'll do the math on 1985 in a minute, but when you read my book and Liz Clayson Kelly gave it to you, you read the 100-story home when you were
Yes,
100 years old. Is that correct?
I think that was about when it was. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
100. I'm 104 now.
Right. So so anyone who's watching that, I'm sure, is not believing the fact that I'm having this remarkably sharp conversation with someone who's 104. You started the affordable housing in 1985. So you were starting that, I guess you were in your late 70s, early 80s when you started that?
Well, actually, when I started
Oh, no,
working
no,
with,
no. Yeah, the 40
yeah,
years.
with
Yeah.
Habitat, I think I was 69 when I started. Yeah, with Habitat.
Yeah, and I love that, Miss Jo, because I talk to people all the time who are trying to figure out their purpose, and they're trying to figure out what they should do, and they think they've missed the boat. They think that it's just too late for them. And I was listening to some woman last night tell me she was 59 years old, and she said, well, it's just too late for her. She's missed the boat. So there you started the Habitat when you were 69, and now we're 100 and you're still going. So there's no excuse for people watching this who say, well, I'm just too old to do anything that matters.
Well, what I would like to say, Kathy, is that I could have stayed at home in my rocking chair. But the wonderful thing is, when you do become involved, you meet the wonderful people. And so life is so much richer for you if you become involved with some worthwhile cause outside yourself.
You told me when we met, you were talking about how you had an experience either going to church or leaving church, and it was raining one night,
Oh,
and it was very profound for you. It had an effect on me. I haven't forgotten that story. So I was wondering if you could tell us that story.
well, that was so funny. We were, my young friend Betsy Preston was driving me. I don't drive anymore, of course. And it was a winter night, I think in late February, and it was pouring down rain and dark and gloomy. And I don't even remember what the subject was of the service at the church, but it had nothing to do with homelessness.
Yes.
And so we were pulling out of the parking lot, and all of a sudden, it was one of those winter electrical storms, and there was a streak of lightning.
Oh my gosh.
And out of my mouth came, "Oh, Betsy, where do you think the homeless are sleeping tonight?"
Oh.
And as I say, it had nothing to do with the program topic at the church. So I just say that I got struck by lightning almost.
I think so. Well, and I think it is, once you start doing the work, I think you don't look at a rainstorm the same way, or where we're both speaking today, it's snowing, and you don't look at a snowstorm the same way. It's beautiful outside, but someone
Right.
is unfortunately out in the elements tonight and might freeze to death. It really does change your perspective of how you view weather. But yeah, that lightning, struck by lightning, to have this idea, I love that story of yours.
Yeah, it takes a lot to get me going.
That is a great story. But if you're thinking about someone who's maybe, in their 40s or 50s, and they're kind of looking and hoping for purpose and hearing that whisper, could you give them any advice on how you hear it, or how you know, or what caused you to act on the ones that you felt called to?
I really don't know. I think it's such an individual thing, but I think you just have to be listening, probably. And a
Or
lot
struck by
of,
lightning?
right, because everybody doesn't get struck by lightning.
Well, I think everyone has whispers. I think only some people get hit by cosmic 2x4s and lightning. So
Yeah, well, that's right. I think there are many ways that people, uh, and you got to be listening. Here at 104, I don't. Each day is a gift, and I feel like if you get up in the morning and say, and in your prayer, pray that God will show you what He wants you to do. And if you try to really listen, and some days I do and some days I don't, that's the only advice I have. Keep listening.